Yeah.
So we have to go line up.
Did you have to get a ticket?
Yeah, I did.
He's gonna sign a little bit.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Botcon 2004. This is our first panel. And let's give it up and have a big round of applause for a very talented gentleman, Mr. Dan Gilvezan.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Anybody here a Transformer fan? Well, you've certainly come to the right place. As I was saying to my pal Optimus Prime the other day, Optimus, are there any Decepticons in the room? No, little pal. You know, not many people know that I also did the role of Optimus Prime. Peter Cullen actually just stood next to me. And he gets a lot of credit for it, obviously. Glad to see you all here today. Are you having fun yet?
Yeah.
Excellent. I was just thinking about this on the way over here. It was about 20 years ago, almost exactly 20 years ago, that I received a call from my agent for an audition for a new animated series called The Transformers, which nobody was quite clear about it. We knew it was based on a toy line by Hasbro. That was the first time anything like that had been done. Hasbro got the bright idea that we'll build a toy line and then build a series around it and see how that works. Now, needless to say, it worked real well. I remember my audition. We all read for many, many different characters. And after the initial audition, which was actually just put on tape, there are called callbacks in the business, where you go back a second time, they take a second look, they sort of weed out some of the people that they know they don't want. And I remember at the callback, Wally Burr was running it. And I was sitting in the outer room waiting to be called, and he came out, he said, "Hey, Dan, how are you?" And I said, "I'm fine, Wally, how are you?" And I had known Wally from other stuff. And he said, "We'll be with you in just a second. It must be nice to know that you've already got a part." Real? What do you mean? Well, they want you to do Bumblebee, but they're not sure if they want you to do some other characters too. Really? What do you mean? So they had me read. It's weird because they had me read for Spike, and they were this close to casting me as Spike as well. But then they realized Spike and Bumblebee had so much to do together. I'd be constantly talking to myself. Now I do that in the car a lot, but they don't want me doing it in the studio. So I finally ended up with Bumblebee, and then some other ancillary characters along the way, which you guys probably know better than I do, because what would happen is, and I'm sure most of you are aware of it, the main characters, once new characters came along, and remember, this was a series based on a toy line. So the more characters, the more toys, the more money for Hasbro, right? So more and more characters came along. Wally would audition the regular members of the cast and say, "We've got a new, a new Autobot or a new Decepticon. Will you take it? And you do this one, and you do this one." So we all ended up doing quite a few different ones. And of course, Bumblebee was the one, my main one, and the one that I remember most. The show, it began in '85. Am I right? Am I correct? Or 84. So it was early in '84 when we first began production, because it took time to actually draw the things. And the recording sessions for this show were really kind of remarkable. There were the original cast. There weren't that many. I guess there were about 9 of us. Peter and Frank Welker, Neil Ross, John Stevenson, who I just saw the other day. John is doing very well, by the way. We're both with the same agency. I see him almost every day. And he's done a few of these, I believe. Yeah, or 1 or 2? Yeah, he was, and John's a wonderful man. John's been in the business since early in the Paleozoic era. In fact, there's fossil imprints of him in certain sections of Hollywood. So when we first started doing it, we were all sort of trying to find our way through it, and Wally was extraordinarily patient with us. However, Wally was also very demanding. And those first sessions went on for sometimes 12 hours. And now we're talking about a 22-minute show after the commercial breaks and the intro and outro. So for a 22-minute show, we were in there for like 12 hours. Now guys like me who are working up in here, you know, hey, come on, get the Decepticons, let's go! Wasn't that big of a problem, but for people like Peter, I actually saw blood come out at one point. They worked him like crazy, and also, and Frank, I don't even know how he does that. It's got something to do with, I don't even want to go into it. At any rate, we all sort of found our way early on, and then as they added more characters, they realized that the first original cast members could not do all of the characters, so they started to cast more people. By the end of the first year, the recording booth was literally jammed with bodies. There were probably 15 or 20 of us in there sharing microphones, and it was insane because, as you know, this is all battle scenes and running and rolling and jumping and hiding. So you'd be like this. Here's how you'd be, because there'd be three people. You know how they do in airports where they stack up the airplanes? That's how it was. There'd be like Arthur Burkhart would be here, and then here would be like Neil Ross would be there, and then I'd be here because my line was first, and I'd say, "Come on, guys, let's roll for it!" And then you duck out of the way really fast, and then Arthur would come and go, "Yeah, let's go!" And then you know, somebody would go, "Yeah, come on, let's go really fast!" It was crazy. So finally, Wally worked out a system. He had an intercom installed. And the people that didn't have like immediate scenes were in the waiting room, and they would sit in the waiting room, and you would hear. It was really silly. You would hear.
Dan Gilvezan, his scene is coming up in about 5 minutes. Please enter the doors.
And it was like, who the hell is that? Wow. So we would shuttle in back and forth into the studio just so we had more room in there, which was really strange. I don't know what more I can tell you about stuff. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff I can tell you. I'm going to open it up to questions soon. I guess, you know what, before I do that, let me tell you a little bit about how I got into this mess. In 1979 or 80, I was called to audition for Spiderman and His Amazing Friends. It enjoys a warm spot in my heart as well. Now, I was a big Spider-Man fan as a kid. And still am, for that matter. I had the comic books and everything. In fact, I had a Spider-Man poster on my wall. Now, everybody in town was out for this role, or these roles. This was Marvel's first time to come out and do their own animated series. Before that, they had licensed it out to other companies. But this was the first time that Stan Lee and a lot of the creative gang had come out west and created Marvel Productions. This was their first production, so everybody was like, this was big stuff. Now, I'd never done an animated show before. I'd been an actor a professional actor for something like 10 years at that point. So I knew how to act, but there's a certain technique to this which is different from, you know, body acting. Face acting, as the voice actors disparagingly refer to it. Oh, are you a face actor? I make more money than you and it's just my voice. Shut up. I'm prettier than you are. Have you ever noticed the voiceover people are just piss ugly, most of them? Okay. Huh? Okay. Well, geez, Peter's going to be here later. Anyway. Don't tell him, will you? Actually, Peter sounds like this. He's about 3 feet high. Weirdly enough. He's got this black hair and mustache. Peter, stop it. You're pressing against my vital organs. At any rate, where was I? Oh, Pasadena. Everybody in the world was out for these 3 roles, and it was Spider-Man, Iceman, and Firestar. Now, it was supposed to be the Human Torch, but they were afraid that kids would see this flaming human being and set themselves on fire. And it was like, you know, lawsuit city. So they created Firestar, who was, of course, the beautiful, red-headed, voluptuous contemporary of Spider-Man and Iceman. So anyway, they started the auditions, and everybody in town is up for this thing. And I was with a small voiceover agency at the time called the Tischerman Agency. And I went to the audition along with, I mean, they had the janitors going in and reading for this stuff, you know? Can you speak? Okay. I said, can you speak? say, Spider friends, go for it? Spider friends, go for it! Come on in, we'll read you. Anybody can do this, it's simple. Anyway, I went to a callback, and then a second callback, and then, believe it or not, a third callback. And at the third callback, we were in the actual studio where we were going to record, and on one side of me was Frank Welker. On the other side was Kathy Garber, who you probably know from Family Affair, as Sissy from Family Affair. I did. And we three read together. The producer, Dennis Marks, came out and said, "Congratulations, this is our team." And I was like, wow. You know, I used to love Spider-Man, and today I are one. So I'm like floating off the ground. Plus, this was quite a coup for a career. Now, I hadn't done that much at that point, so it was really quite something to land a role of that magnitude. Frank, of course, was well known already, and Kathy had a career because of Family Affair, so it was really quite an honor to be cast in that. So my only fear was I knew nothing about how to do animated shows, and there is a different technique involved. You have to do more with your voice, obviously, because there's nothing else happening. So I thought, here's what I'll do. I'll stand next to Frank, and I'll do what Frank does. Frank was successful at it. If I just copy what Frank does, you know, as far as intensity, as far as, you know, just the technique, how close to the microphone, I didn't know any of that stuff, really. So about 2 weeks after this announcement was made, this is our team, I ran into a friend of mine, Sally Julian is her name, a lovely blonde woman, who said, "Oh, sorry about that Spider-Man thing." And I went, "Huh?" She said, "Yeah, we just did the first session last week." And I was like, "Welcome to Hollywood." The network, NBC, decided they didn't like me. They went with someone else. Aww, poor Danny. Danny was almost Spider-Man. So, but Danny took a philosophical approach to it. He thought, after he thought about it for a few seconds, he said, then it was all okay. I pass that along to you for any of you who are in frustrating situations. At any rate, Sally told me that it had been recast, and I actually thought, well, you know, I got so close. It's a good omen, you know, I'll get there. 2 weeks after that, I get a call from my agent who says, "You're booked next week to do Spider-Man." And I go, and I thought he meant to do a guest on the show, and I thought, well, that was awfully nice of them to say, you know, we wanted to get you in, but NBC didn't want you, but we're going to have you play, you know, Electro or Doc Ock or somebody like that. And I said, "Oh, great." And he said, no, you don't understand. You're doing Spider-Man." I said, "No, I'm not." He said, "Yes, you are." I said, "No, I'm not. They told me I wasn't. Sally told me I wasn't." He said, "Is Sally your agent?" "I'm your agent, aren't I?" And I looked at my union card and I said, yeah, he was. And it turns out they did the first session, the whole cast was together. They didn't like the person that they chose after all, so they went back to me. Now here's where it gets scary. You remember I mentioned, I had no experience in animation whatsoever. They had already laid down all the tracks for the first show. All that was missing was Spider-Man / Peter Parker. I was in a giant studio with a microphone stand and one microphone right here, and with the producer, the director, and all of these NBC people in the booth. I should have tied a string to it because literally it right inside. I was scared to death. And I had to rely completely on Alan Dinehart, who was our great director on that, a real character. He got me through it. We did all the lines discreetly, you know, and they dropped them in later. Now you're further away. You're really angry. All right, I'm gonna get you. Now you're really angry. I'm gonna get you. Now you're really, really angry. Yes, I am. I'm gonna get you. That's it. Print that one. That's good. Cool. I got through it, and then, of course, as we went along, I did get to stand next to Frank and Kathy, and I learned a whole bunch from Frank, who is probably the premier male voiceover actor still working today. Frank is in everything. The producers still continue to torture me, though, all the way to the 6th episode, where they go, you know, they're still not real sure. you know, this isn't like a lock, okay? And I'm like, guys, you know, that's what we need, yes. So anyway, it all turned out fine. I got to be Spider-Man. Who's on video? What's the matter with you? It's kind of weird in the movie that it's actually a part of his body, huh? I wonder why. Does anybody know why? They decided to...
Probably budget.
Really?
Well, you know, Thomas would have to have the web shooter to make the formula.
I'm sorry?
It's a little easier to explain that something he creates the devices out of nothing.
Yeah, unlike the suit.
Yes.
Where'd the suit come from? Yeah, yeah. I'd like to make me one of them. Anyway, that's my Spider-Man story. Thanks for listening to that. I guess we'll go ahead and you guys can ask questions if you want, but please be aware that we did many, many, many shows. So if you say,
in episode 416B, when your head was on that rock, how come you didn't just walk away from it?
because I'll insult you. If you do So do we have anybody with a question? And somebody way in the back just raised their hand, I think, first. I think there's microphones placed in the aisle. If you'd step to those. Oh, we've got a runner here. It's our Phil Donahue clone. Hey, this could turn out like Jerry Springer. Do you think like a fight could break out here between, I think the Autobots are the best. Oh, I like the Decepticons. Oh, yeah.
For the right amount of money, we can make it happen.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Matthew Higgins, and when you first started doing Bumblebee, did you really think you would become one of the most popular Transformers at the time?
Not at all. No. I knew it was different from most of them because he was the smallest. And there was a lot of talk about, in smallness there is strength and that kind of stuff, which was the message I think that they were trying to put there. So I had an idea that he was a little different. But no, not at all. And as a matter of fact, I was just talking to Pete Sinclair, who's one of the guys running this thing. I've heard William Shatner, not to put us in the same league, but I've heard William Shatner say the same thing. It was a job that they did that grew enormous legs. And it's the same thing with Transformers. I did many, many shows during that time because, excuse me, and other, for aspiring voice people, don't yell and scream like I do, because you're not talking, you sound like Bill Clinton after a while. Anyway, see, Hasbro struck a real gold mine with this, obviously, so every toy company in the universe now was producing 65-episode shows, so it was a real golden time for voice actor performers, because there was so much work. And I did, shows like Sectars and Spiral Zone, and and of course G.I. Joe I was also on after I had done some Transformers. So there was a point I was trying to make. Oh yeah, but of all those shows that I did, this is one of the very few that people are still interested in, and it seems to be growing and growing and growing every year, so that's really kind of neat. Anybody else? Well, here, right next to that guy back there. No, I'll get to you.
Do you plan on doing any Excuse me. Do you plan
Sir, please turn off your radio. Just kidding. No, that's what they say on the radio, because you get this. What, are you taping yourself asking this question? What kind of ego is this, I ask you? Turn the freaking thing around and tape me. What's your question?
Can we get on with it this time?
Yeah. All right, the audience turns on the actor. Go ahead.
Do you plan on doing any voiceovers for the rumored upcoming Transformers movie?
Yeah.
I think it would be great. Some of us are still alive. In fact, most of the original cast is absolutely. I mean, I haven't been contacted by anyone. It's still in very early stages, I'm sure. They'll probably end up with Tom Cruise as Bumblebee. Okay, wait. How about Danny DeVito? Just paint him yellow. We can run around. Hey, Optimus, come here. So I don't think any of the original cast has been contacted. There's rumors going around, so we'll have to see. But I would love to. That would be so great. I see a lot of the other cast members around town because we're still active, of course, in the voiceover community. I just saw, excuse me, Peter Cullen. In fact, I worked with him about a month ago on a spot for Wells Fargo Bank. So we see each other quite frequently. I see Corey all the time. He's so cute. Sometimes I take his nose and I go like this. It's fun to do that. If he ever comes to this convention, see if he'll let you do that. All right, any other questions? You've had your hand up for quite some time. Get down, dirty. Over here. I forgot.
This is asked by people for a lot of the voice actors. Can you share any memories of Chris Latta that you may have with us?
Absolutely.
And also, can you mention your favorite scenes from your favorite part of Spider-Man and Miss Bumblebee, your favorite lines, or just general memories?
Okay. General memories. Well, first of all, Chris Latta, who was a wonderful, wonderful guy. He's passed away, of course. I'll tell you a story about him. He was, of course, Starscream. Great, great character job. I mean, awesome. I watched one of the episodes the other day with my wife, just to sort of jog my memory about stuff, and boy, Chris was really good. He used to sweat a lot. Chris did. And I used to pray that I didn't get put next to him. Because he's doing Starscream. And if you're standing next to him, like, the whole left side of you would be wet after the session. And you go and try and explain that, you know? Well, Chris sweated on me and he was flailing around and stuff. He was a very kind guy. He was a stand-up comic, too. I don't know if you know that. He was a very well-known stand-up comic around town, and it was really sad to lose him. He was a very sweet, sweet man. As far as, like, favorite lines, well, of course, for Spider-Man and his amazing friends, there's Spider Friends, go for it! And Bumblebee was just, there was a lot of stuff like, hey, Optimus! I got my ass caught in a crevice! Or is it crevasse? So nothing, I mean, there was yelling. There was much yelling on that show. In fact, Wally Burr, who I believe will be here at some point this weekend, I hope to be gone by then, but Wally will be here, and Wally was a very, very demanding director. He heard a line reading in his head, and if you didn't give it to him that way, you were going to do take after take after take until you did. And I used to watch him reduce people to just like rubble in front of me. I mean, there'd be some like big strapping 6-foot actor guy, and by the end of it, he'd just be like crawl out of the booth going, I'm quitting, I'm going into aluminum siding because I can't do this. For the regular cast who kind of caught on to what we were doing, it wasn't bad, but if Wally got on you, I saw him ask for like 20, 25 takes of, oh yeah? I want, oh yeah. You got that? Okay, go ahead, roll. This is, Autobots, take 4. Oh yeah? Got it. No, I wanted, and it just would go on and on and on until this guy was totally decimated. It was a great thing to watch. Any more questions? Yeah, this gentleman right here.
Hi, first of all, I'd like to say it is an immense honor to meet you.
Oh, thank you.
And the question is, did they ever approach you to do Robots in Disguise, Armada, Beast Wars, Beast Machines?
Once they gold-plated me, I was history. In fact, yeah, no, it was weird because the G1, the original guys, we did, I guess, 3 seasons, and you watch over the course of those 3 seasons as we get to do less, except for Optimus and you know, the big guys, we got to do less and less and less. And there was more like, you know, there was the Chairicon, you know, I turn into a chair, you know, really? I turn into a thumbtack. I don't even know what I turn into, but I turn into something. So you watch, and it starts out, and we're in a lot of it, and then we're in less, and by the 3rd season, a lot of us had almost been phased out. And then for the movie, which was, I thought, very disappointing, they decided we could say, hey, instead of all those yellow Volkswagens, let's sell gold ones. We'll dip him. So they dipped me, and that was what was your question?
Well, the question was, did they ever approach you to do Armada, Energon?
No, once they had their way with us, they were done. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with the movie, but knowing Hollywood the way I do, I swear, the Danny DeVito idea is not too far off base. Because look what they did with the movie. Suddenly there's Robert Stack. Orson Welles plays a freaking planet, for crying out loud. His last role. I mean, there's some irony in that. Oh. Anyway, so no, the answer to your question is no, but who knows? Who knows? I know we would all love to do it. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll play like the grandparents of the new generation or something. Hey, I remember when I jumped that gorge. It was great. Anybody else? Right here.
Thank you. Again, it's a pleasure to meet you. You are one of my favorite characters because I go back to the beginning of Transformers.
So you're an old person.
Yes. Very happily so.
Me too.
My question to you is, do you find it difficult when you do the different voices, how to just keep one voice for something? Because you're playing so many different...
Yeah.
Do you get them confused sometimes?
At times, yeah. It's hard that way. And as I said at the beginning, when they were considering casting me as Spike as well, they realized that's not going to work because he'll be just back and forth with himself. Once you've sort of locked into it, it becomes easier. But those first few 5, 6 sessions where you're still kind of finding your way, it is difficult. And there was a lot of stopping and starting, as I said. Those Transformers is a show. There was an animation strike in 1987. Transformers was almost single-handedly responsible for that. Wally Burr was almost single-handedly responsible for that because of these 12-hour sessions. One of the concessions that we won was 4-hour sessions because it seemed insane to spend like 8, 10, 12 hours on a 22-minute show. So it was hard at first, but once you lock in, it's easier. People like Frank Welker are absolutely phenomenal to watch in that regard because they're just like this. And also like Chris Latta too. The stand-up guys, stand-up comics I mean, who did voices as part of their act are also very, very good at that. But once you lock in, then it's just a real quick mind flip. And if you have trouble, they stop the tape and pick it up with the other character. So that's the story on that. And thank you for your kind comment. I didn't mean about the old. I'm old too. But I have a young wife. Stand up. This is my wife. Stand up. Stand up. She won't stand up. She wants fame, but she doesn't have to pay for it. Yeah. Secret of my longevity. And also the huge smile on my face. Anybody else? Right here with the orange, whatever that is. Oh, is that it?
Bumblebee is obviously a huge fan favorite, but he hasn't seen a toy incarnation since its original Generation 1 self. If he were to come out in the new alternator line, that's sort of like a major Generation 1 homage, since Volkswagen won't release the license, is there any other car form that you think would fit Bumblebee at all?
I'd like to be a Touareg. Just because I like saying Touareg. Hi, I'm a Touareg. It would have to be a small car. Anybody got any ideas? A Mini Cooper would be great. Yeah, a Mini Cooper would be great. No.
Hotspot.
Oh, I see. Okay. A little neon. Fine. Well, you know what? Maybe it should be all American because I'd have to do it with a British accent or something. Help! Optimus, I've got my ass stuck in a crevasse! It hurts me. Any other questions? This gentleman right here in the yellow hat.
In episode 5, 6... I'm kidding. Who would win, Spiderman or Bumblebee?
Man, that's a good question. I know the answer, but I can't reveal it. I simply can't, because everybody has their own idea of what would happen. I have a pretty good idea, and I'm going to keep it to myself. There's some things that I must keep to myself. Not a lot, but just a few. Anybody else? Way in the back. Yeah, right with you got a red armband on? Or a wristband, rather? Yes. Can you get to him? There we go.
Hi, I was wondering if you had any, yeah.
I can hardly see you, but I know you're there. There you go. Look, see, that's support. Do you know this gentleman?
Yes, he's my husband. But anyways, I was wondering if you had any like funny anecdotes you remembered about working with Susan Blue, and if you worked with her recently.
Yes, I actually, yeah. I adore Susan Blue. Susie and I are friends, as a matter of fact. The last thing I did was a guest on a show called Balloonatics. It hasn't aired yet. I don't know where it's for Nickelodeon or one of those nighttime. And Sue directed it, and she was kind enough to have me as a guest. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. She also is a tiny little munchkin of a woman. She's just little, but very talented. We go back, Susan and I, to the days of My Little Pony. She was, yeah. Susan was one of the original My Little Ponies. In fact, I like to ride her around the office sometimes. I'm kidding with you. But Susan and I are really quite close friends. We were with the same agency, as a matter of fact, so I see her frequently as well. She was RC, if you remember. She came in a little later. She came in later on the show. As far as anecdotes, I can't. No, I can't tell that one. Oh, I know. No, I can't. No, I don't have any. Yeah. Who's really wants to ask a question?
There's been someone waiting since the
okay.
start.
Yeah, you know what? Do me a favor, because it's hard for me to keep track. If you can find the most needy person, then you can do it. Okay? Well, you're pretty needy, aren't you? Go ahead.
Could you please do your funniest impression of any Transformer? And not that...
Not the getting the...
Yeah.
Because I've already used that twice, haven't I? Well, you know, comedy works in threes. Okay, here's my impression of... What time's Peter coming?
Alright, Decepticons. Eat my lead.
Spray of blood. Swallow.
More.
That's my Peter color. Have him do me when he does his panel. I love Peter. He's the sweetest man alive. And I've tasted him. Sorry. Yes. Wait for they have a mic.
Who's your favorite Transformer other than Bumblebee?
Well, it'd have to be Optimus. Did you notice that Bumblebee had kind of a thing for Optimus? I mean, I think if it weren't for the size factor.
Size doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, but if you're a 1,000-pound vehicle, it does. Unless you're on top. I meant, like, for the kids in the audience, like acrobatic. Optimus was my favorite, but I gotta tell you, Starscream is right up there. And as I said, I watched one of the episodes just to, Chris Lala. Let's... Very talented man. And actors that we don't have with us anymore that were wonderful on the show, Scatman Crothers. There was nobody like Scatman. Nobody like Scatman. And I gotta tell you, this is the kind of business where you would pay to be in, where you go out into the lobby to go take a break or whatever, and Scatman's out there playing his guitar and scatting. It's like, okay, how much do you want me to pay you to do this job? It was just great, and he was an incredibly wonderful person. Just a great person. Great voice. Don Messick, same thing. Well, a legend, Don. And thank God I got to work with him too, because, I mean, he was everybody. Don was everybody from my youth. You know, every Hanna-Barbera character practically was Don. Of course, and of course, Corey was a student of his. And Corey has gone on to great heights with all of those wacky characters. I mean, I stuck mostly with the humanoid or human characters, but Corey, you know, is just, did I mention I like to take his nose and go like that? Anybody else? Yes.
What do you think it is, what do you personally think it is about Bumblebee as a character that makes him so popular?
I think it's his size, and I think it's his attitude. If you look at the episodes, he's small, but he's always game. You know, he's small, but he's got a giant heart, and I think people relate to that. People relate to the underdog. I found in performing characters and stuff. People root for the little guy, and I think, you know, so many of the Autobots were these huge hulking creatures. Also, he had a real connection with the human Spike. So really, Spike was you. So, you know what I'm saying? In a way, Spike represented the audience, so there was a real sort of affection between the two, and I think it transferred into the people who were watching it as well. Okay? Yes?
I was going to ask if you could voice another character besides Bumblebee, another Transformer, who would that have been, but I guess you probably would have said Primer.
Well, yeah.
But along with that, what do you think of Wheelie? You know, he kind of took over the kid-friendly Transformer after that.
I know, what's up with that? You know, here's my suggestion, and when he comes on, just turn the thing off. Or turn the sound down. You can see the picture, but don't listen to the voice. It's not good. Yes?
When you voice characters, or any of the actors, did they give you sort of the preparation, like say, the tech specs or something? How do you get into character? Was it left up to your interpretation of what Bumblebee should be, or did they give you sort of the tech spec or some background?
When we first started, actually the audition process is kind of interesting with a show like this, or any animated show. The audition process is really much more involved than a normal audition. In a normal, and I do on-camera stuff as well, so normally you walk in to an office, and I call it office acting, and it's really a lot of fun. There's a filing cabinet here, and a desk there, and a chair there, and now, okay, you're in an alley, okay, and it's raining, okay, but there's a file cabinet there, a desk there. So that's very different. They will work with you, and Wally worked with each one of us to sort of develop a basis for each character during the final auditions. And then, as I say, you look at shows like The Simpsons. If you see some of the earlier episodes, Dan Castellaneta hasn't got Homer until a little bit further in. And that's what happens. A character develops. In fact, if you look at the early Homers, the models, in fact, the way Homer looks has changed too. So it takes a little time to sort of work into it. But Wally worked with us. Oh, this is great. About halfway through the first season, they decided that they needed a library of sound effects from each character because there was so much yelling and screaming and grunting and groaning and taking punches that they said, you know, rather than have to do this over and over, we'll just build a sound library for each of the characters. So they'd have, Frank would get, I gotta tell you, man, that's worth the price of admission. To see Frank Welker go through, you know, groaning, grunting, sneezing, farting, sighing, laughing, any sound that a human or an Autobot could make. You know what? That's once again, where do I pay the man for watching this? Because it was absolutely incredible. So they built voice libraries of all of us, and that cut down on a lot of the problems. Because what I said about Peter is actually very true, and Frank too. These guys were working their butts off, man, and it was really rough on their voices. It was really rough because there's so much shouting, so much high energy stuff. So that saved a lot of people, voices probably. Yes.
Over here.
Where are we? Oh, hi.
I had two questions for you.
Okay, I'll have two answers, I hope.
First of all, I'd like to say that I am a fan of Bumblebee, and I really appreciate your contribution to the Transformers.
Thank you. Thank you.
And my questions are, if you were approached to do more Transformers voice acting, would you, and the second one is, what's your opinion on fan fiction?
As far as, thank you for your sweet comment. As far as doing more Transformers, if they met my price, I suppose. You know, I have moved on. You know, I have done television shows and things of that nature. Yeah, I would be, most of us, I guarantee you, most of us would be thrilled to do that show again, because it does enjoy a real warm place in all of our hearts. And it would be, what a hoot that would be, to get us all back in the studio together, doing those characters again. It would just be insane. So yes to that. And fan fiction, I think, is great. I mean, it's a great outlet for the fan to get involved in the show and to... My daughter is a huge Harry Potter fan. She's writing fan fiction all the time. So I think fan fiction is great. And as a matter of fact, some of the fan fiction is better than the scripts we had to work on. Anybody else?
Right here.
Yeah, I know they send the animation overseas, but what kind of interaction did you have with the pre-conceptual artists, like the character designers and stuff?
Actually, very little. They do supply, once again, during the audition process, you're presented with sketches of the character, which in most cases helps you. In the case of this show, it was a little different because you're looking at a car. And it's like, oh, I get it. Okay, a Volkswagen. It sounds like this, right? So, but for most animated shows, they have character models that you can refer to. And then frequently, during the Spiderman and the Amazing Friends show, they actually had storyboards that we would be able to look at, the Xerox storyboards, to sort of get an idea of what the action was. But pretty much, you have to depend on the director who has a storyboard for sure, has studied it hopefully the night before or the week before, and has seen that, you know, this character is 50 feet away from this character at this point, so that's how much we need you to shout. So you really have to depend on the director for a lot of that stuff. And as I say, Wally was meticulous. I mean, he did a wonderful job, let's face it. I mean, the shows have stood up. But he was very, very meticulous with his directing and very helpful frequently. Yes?
I was just wondering if you had any advice for the people that are doing the directing session with Wally Burr this afternoon.
Run. What is Wally here yet? Let's see. Patience. No, well, you know what? It's been 20 years. Maybe Wally's mellowed. You can't tell. You know?
No.
No?
He's worse.
It's Wally's son, right here. I would say concentrate. Try and forget that you're being watched by like hundreds of people. You know, because that's gonna throw you off. One of the most important things about any acting is the concentration, is to stay focused. Because obviously, when you're doing a television show, there's cameras and lights and cables and all kinds of stuff. You literally got to create sort of a bubble around yourself, where you can control, you know, what you're doing and not be distracted by the grip over here that's scratching his crotch. You know, don't look. There's no grip over there scratching your crotch. There's a metaphor. I like to use the crotch for metaphors. Anybody else?
Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Do you remember doing any lines for Hotspot, the Protectobot leader?
Hotspot I remember only vaguely, because by that time the sessions had gotten so out of control that it was, literally there were 20, 30 people in probably a booth that was maybe 10 by 20. So I don't, you know, and plus I have trouble remembering what I did yesterday.
You must have been happy when your character was brought back as Goldbug.
Well, no. Were you happy?
No.
Some of you were happy, yes and no. I just like the original Bumblebee so much. You know. And I'm hopeful that when they do the live action show, whether I'm or a TV series, it's a movie. I just hope that they do the G1 version where he's the yellow Volkswagen and not Goldbug. Yeah, and hopefully they will. Anybody else?
Over here.
Yes.
Okay. If you could have done any character from any of the other Transformers shows there have been, which one would you have done?
That's a good call. Oh yeah, I know what it was. Sea Spray. Remember Sea Spray? Alan Oppenheimer. The great Alan Oppenheimer, by the way. Alan I don't see too often. He's off doing plays in New York. But here's how we used to do Sea Spray. It was great. And I learned how to do Sea Spray from him. And here's really how he did it. That'd be one I want to do. Because I like to put my fingers in my mouth. your mouth? No? Okay. Get up here. Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering if any of your roles have ever required you to sing, and what was that like if you ever had to sing?
Sing. Well, actually, I did do some singing, but it was for actually an on-camera role. I was also, around about the same time, I was a spokesman for Jack in the Box restaurants. Some of you may remember, those of you who are older, it was west of the Mississippi. They hadn't gone national at that point, and I was required to sing opera on one of those. They had me in like I think they were doing like a provolone sandwich or something, and they had me punting down in Venice, and I was wearing one of those Venice suits, you know, that they wear. And it's not that funny, Joseph. But I will sing for you later. So I've sung for that, but oh, I'm sorry, yes, absolutely. I also performed the role of Cooler in Pound Puppies. And that was real different for me, you know, because normally it was, you know, these, characters, these big, big hero guys, and this was like a little dog, so that was kind of cool, kind of cooler. And we did a couple where we sang, a couple episodes were musicals, and that was a lot of fun. Those were for Hanna-Barbera. So yes, I have, as a matter of fact. Anybody else?
All right, first of all, this is an honor. I have been waiting to get this chance.
Look, we have the same shirt on.
Oh yeah,
Come
I
here.
love Bumblebee.
Come here.
Oh my goodness.
Let's go here. Come here.
Someone pick me up.
I'll handle the interviewing. What's your name?
My name is Lynn.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
My name is Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Where are you from?
Originally I'm from North Carolina. I moved to Wisconsin about 5 years ago.
Cheese country.
Yeah.
And you're a big Transformers fan?
Very big Bumblebee fan.
Oh, thank you. Do you have a question?
Well, I was wondering, since...
I like her.
Since you mentioned that the other characters, the main characters, were kind of pushed to the background, did you personally feel slighted? Because I was pretty disappointed when I saw Bumblebee kind of fading into the background because I liked him so much.
I love you.
Someone catch me if I faint.
Yes, Lynn, as a matter of fact, I did. And I think those of us who were G1, the originals, all sort of did. But we understood that it was based on a toy line. So it's like, move aside, we're going to put some new toys on the shelf, and they're taking your place, pal. So yeah, it was kind of disappointing. And I was very disappointed that I had so little to do in the movie. If you remember, it's just that one scene with Spike. I believe it was with Spike. So there wasn't very much to do. Lynn, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Oh my God.
We only have time for a couple more questions.
Okay, just a few more. And then we're going to turn into a Volkswagen.
In reading the Transformers scripts, did you ever come across a line where you actually asked, do I really have to say this?
Oh yeah, well mostly it was, do I really have to scream this? Yeah, there was a lot of yelling, as you know. I mean, you watch those shows and it's like they're all battle scenes. I would really relish the quiet scenes. Every once in a while there'd be a scene where they'd be in a cave or something and you could actually have a scene, and it was really nice to be able to do that. So mostly what I really didn't like doing, and most of us didn't, were the big, and all that stuff. And as I say, the guys working in the lower registers really had a rough time with that because, they're digging deep for that stuff. Guys, Corey and guys like me who are on the lighter side, and I just mean vocally. Did you stand up again, Joselle? We have an easier time of it than the guys who are working way down here. And Frank, how does Frank do that? Does anybody? Really weird. So yeah, just the yelling was hard. Anybody else? Yes.
Hi, just want to say I'm a huge fan of all the shows you've worked on. I just really think the quality of the voice actors on the Transformers, G.I. Joe, Gem, all those shows was what made it really amazing and stand up the way it had. And what was great, at least I thought, is the interaction between the characters. It really sounded like you guys were in the room together, interacting. You guys were friends. Was that always the case, or did you guys do a lot of pickups after the fact?
Yeah, well, we did, it depends. That's an interesting point, as a matter of fact, and thank you for your kind comment. There was a lot of action stuff, obviously, so that stuff, you know, we'd go back and do that again and again. The reason that the smaller scenes, when they cropped up, were favorites was Wally would let us go ahead and play them as actors. So you're really able to act more with the person, you know, next to you on either side or wherever they may be. That was a lot, to me, that was a lot more, as an actor, more fulfilling than just dropping in a line here or a line there. So yeah, absolutely, those small moments are the ones that I sort of treasured, and it was fun. And also it was a chance to have the character develop a little bit. You know, there's not much you can do with screaming and go for it and roll on and roll for it and stuff. But, you know, when you're doing a scene with, like, Optimus and, you know, gee, Optimus, I want to be like you someday.
Well, you'll never be like me because I'm a big semi and you're a little bit.
But I like you anyway. So those little quiet scenes were fun. Thanks.
All right, this should probably be...
Are we history?
Well, one more question. He's been waiting for a long time.
All right.
Hi.
Hi.
One thing we discovered a couple of years ago at Botcon is that Michael Bell was apparently a very dangerous man to work with in the recording booth.
And outside it.
Yes. Yeah. He was telling at one point how he would consistently crack up Peter during Voltron recording stuff. Did you have similar problems with him during Transformers recording?
Michael has nothing but problems. And I think it stems from, obviously, they're psychologically based. Yeah, Michael's a little... I did Spiral Zone with Michael, which was a little-known series. I guys some of you may remember it. And I worked on that very closely with Michael, and he's terrible. Because guys are trying to do really serious stuff, and he was constantly making faces, and it's like, Wally, Michael's making faces. I'm trying to do my scene. Yeah, he's Michael's trouble on wheels. I'll tell you that. But once again, I see Michael quite a bit too, and he's, you know, the G.I. Joe. Wow, he was great on that show. And Michael, I learned a lot from Michael also. He's done a lot of great work. I guess we got to wrap this thing up. I am going to go in a little bit into the dealer room, and I'll be signing autographs if any of you guys are interested. And I just want to thank you for coming out. It's been this is my first time doing this, and I want to thank you all because it's been a lot of fun.
Dan Gilvezan's autograph will actually be in the autograph room, which is right across from